Canada's boxing channel and another episode of Coach's Corner with esteemed boxing coach Julian McGowan. Julian, how are you? And have you avoided that horrible cold that's passing through Britain?
Unfortunately not, but I've still been to the gym.
Good man.
Been a bit rough for the last couple of weeks. I don't generally get run down. I don't get colds, but I thought I'll just battle it, and I've just come back from the gym about half an hour ago. I had a good session, and the irony is I'm still setting personal bests at 54 years old when I'm in the gym, which is I must have a strange approach to things, because most people tell me you should rest, you should do this, and I'm like, nah, keep going.
Well, you're a late bloomer having an Indian summer.
Awesome.
I've just done a second load of logs this morning at 65 years of age. So I can't say I'm feeling great, but at least I've got it done. So
listen, it's all about being productive, isn't it? You know, if you have too much free time on your hands, you know, the devil makes, you know, work for idle hands, etc. And there's something in that. And I think keep busy always.
yeah.
And that's the kind of, without going off on a big tangent, I'm finding myself personally in a really good place at the moment. You know, we're talking about boxing. I'm enjoying talking about boxing. No, you know, nothing toxic around it. Just talking purely about the art of boxing, about the art of sport. We're seeing some fantastic fights at the moment, and I'm thinking, you know what? Positivity makes you feel better. That's the real key, and we should enjoy the sport. And that's what I'm finding now. I'm coaching again. You can tell I've got my kind of halo back. I'm enjoying myself, and I'm enjoying doing Coach's Corner with yourself.
Right on. Well, I certainly enjoy having you on board. The last time we spoke, it was before Canelo Crawford. And I want to brag that even a blind squirrel gets a nut. I did pick Crawford, though it was far more luck than any kind of judgment. What did you think of that fight?
I thought Canelo initially might just edge the decision. You know, we spoke about this. We did a big breakdown on it and didn't record for some reason, but I thought it might be a close fight and Canelo would kind of get a deserved win. It was good to be proved wrong. I thought Canelo was good. He was Canelo. I just thought Crawford was exceptional. He's an amazing fighter. It was like watching art. It was one of the very few fights that I've got up for, and you know, these days fights don't get me up at the middle of the night. This one did. It kept my attention. The undercard kept up my attention, and it was just a masterclass by an absolute genius. And I don't think we should call him now a modern day great. I think no matter what happens, even though it's always easier to wait until the final chapter's called on a fighter's career, I think ultimately Terence Crawford is an all-time great fighter, and I think no matter what happens from now, that's beyond any dispute.
Yeah, no, I would agree. He fought the perfect fight. I actually enjoyed the whole performance. I enjoyed all of it. I thought Netflix did a great job. I enjoyed the commentary much more than on DAZN. And this is one of those fights where, you know, it was hyped up a lot, and it absolutely matched the hype. So I was super happy.
The quality was just unbelievable. You know, there were a lot of close rounds. I think it was the decision. I thought Crawford won by 3 or 4 points ultimately, but there was just a moment for me when I think it was the 9th round. It wasn't, you know, like Hagler-Leonard. That was a very different fight, but we always remember the 9th round with Hagler-Leonard was such a key round, where they really let their hands go, and it was just fantastic. And there was a few exchanges with Crawford and Canelo again in that 9th round. It was unbelievable. You know, the pressure that Canelo put him under, and the way that Crawford just stood there. He held his spot. He was catching countering. This is textbook stuff at the absolute elite level. It doesn't get any better than that. Watching that 9th round and 10th round, I was like, I've not seen anything like this for a long time. It was just genius, and I don't want to diminish Crawford's performance by saying, you know, people are amazing retrospectively, aren't they?
Oh, Monday morning quarterbacks.
After the event, everybody, Monday morning quarterback. I love that. It's like everybody, oh, well, Canelo really was he ever any good? And he didn't beat Golovkin in the first fight, and yada 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 yada. Everybody, look, Canelo Alvarez is a superb, fantastic fighter. He's been at the top of his game for a long time, and he got beat by a better opponent, a smaller, lighter, but better opponent. And I thought Canelo boxed like Canelo fights. I thought it was very good. I'm not going to start to say he was shot to bits. He was overrated. That Canelo would have probably beat most of the fighters around that weight division, but
Yeah.
not Terence Crawford. It was as simple as that.
One of the things I liked is at any point in that fight, it could have gone the other way. It had held my interest all the way. And at no point would I have been surprised to see Canelo prevail. It was,
No,
it was, it was. I'm not saying it was like super close, but there was jeopardy in every round.
there was jeopardy, and it was competitive all the way through.
Yeah,
And people when the scoring is obviously something that everyone talks about scoring, and everybody likes to think they have an opinion on scoring. But it's that when you hear people say, well, it should have been a split decision or this or that, the other. You can have a fight, and you know this, Bob. You can have a fight where one fighter wins by 8 or 9 points, and that is a really competitive fight.
yeah,
You can also have a 10 rounder where somebody wins 97-94, which is only a 3 point margin on the scorecards. But, fighter A might have won the first 3 or 4 rounds by a whisker, and then fighter B really dominates down the stretch, and it's not that competitive. But the scorecard, there's only a 3 or 4 point difference. Whereas, again, you can have a competitive fight where they've got a wide score, and everybody says, that was too wide. It's like, no, no, we judge rounds one at a time.
yes, yeah,
It's a competitive round. You can have a really close round, and you
yeah,
could give all 12 rounds to fighter B. And people say, 12 points, that's way too loud. We see this on social media when
yeah.
people
Oh,
put,
robbery,
no,
robbery,
yeah,
robbery.
it's not a
Yeah,
robbery. And Crawford won a very competitive fight, 3 or 4 points up. Brilliant fight, lots of jeopardy, and he just proved he had the gears, and he had the next moves, the next level stuff. It was brilliant.
Who do you think? Well, not so much who do you think, but what weight class do you think Crawford's going to fight in next time out, if there is a next time out?
It's such a challenging one because we all like fighters to retire unbeaten with the legacy intact. There's nothing worse than seeing a fighter go on and on and on. And then in 20, 30 years' time, someone on social media will be judging that fighter by saying, he got beat by him, he was absolutely useless. Him. And we see that all the time. And I don't want Crawford to go down that avenue, just like we don't want Usyk to go down that avenue. People say, "Oh, they're way too good." Listen, you keep fighting, you keep fighting, you keep fighting, you get beat.
Yeah,
That's what happens. You will always get beat at some point, whether it's in your late 30s, early 40s. It doesn't matter. You will get beat. So we'd all like Crawford to retire, but I guess the problem is, even though he's got generational wealth, I would assume there's always, as Larry Holmes said, there's always a young contender, a young buck, on the horizon, and there'll always be that pressure to get another 20, 30, 40, 50 million for Crawford. And who would I like him to see fight next? I wouldn't object to a rematch with Canelo. I thought the fight was that good. Really enjoyed it. Probably the same result again, but I wouldn't object to that fight. I'm not feeling the Benavides fight.
hmm,
Just might be he's a big unit, and people
yeah,
say, well, you said that about Canelo, but this is a younger, fresher, huge guy, and it doesn't matter how great you are, we've all got a weight division too far. That might be a stretch too far, and I'm not saying Benavides would beat him, but if Benavides did beat Crawford, it doesn't make him a better fighter, Bob. It just makes him a bigger fighter.
yeah. No, that's a
So
good point.
I'm not really keen on that one.
How about how about dropping down to 160 and picking up a middleweight title?
He could do it if he just wants to belt collect,
Yeah,
and that'd be 5 divisions, would it, for him? If you want to belt collect and you just want a nice shiny belt in the trophy cabinet, I'm sure he could beat pretty much anybody at middleweight. I guess it's the answer is now is you move into the absolute, fighters go from being, world champions, established world champions, then to elite world champions where they can kind of weight hop and pick and choose. And then they go really to superstar level.
Yeah,
They can do anything they want. And I think Crawford right now is at that superstar level in
I think
terms of
so.
boxing. He's crossed over with obviously Netflix and having a massive platform. He can do whatever he wants, and we're going to pay him a lot of money to do it. Um, I don't know if we'll ever see him better than we saw him a
No,
couple of weeks ago, and that's the challenge.
that is it. It might be the high water mark has been reached, right? That doesn't mean that he can't beat a whole bunch of other fighters, but we may have seen the very, very best of him. Um, I'd be happy for him to retire. I'd also be happy for a rematch, like you say. Um, you know, there isn't anybody I would say, oh, I don't want him to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy if he steps in the ring again, gives us another demonstration of his ability. Wonderful, kind of like Usyk,
That's
really.
where I am. Yeah, I'm exactly the same with Usyk now. He's beaten the best fighters of his generation at heavyweight.
Oh yeah,
It's a debate how good those guys were, historical standing. But Usyk's a dominant heavyweight. He'll go down as an all-time great, I am sure. But who do we want him to see? Well, there's an argument he could fight Parker. There's an argument he could fight him, and him, and him. But I don't know if there's anybody who's really going to challenge him other than Father Time and other than just the wrong night. Sometimes the opponent gets you on the wrong night, and I don't like to see that personally.
the fighter who I think could give Usyk the hardest night would be Ajit Kabayel. Um, do I think Ajit Kabayel would beat him? No, I don't. But I think that Kabayel would bring a different set of challenges, and that might be interesting. But who knows?
Yeah, and I'd also like to see a new name in the mix up at those top level fights because the World Championship it becomes the merry-go-round of the same three or
Yeah,
four fighters holding those positions for the last 7 or 8 years. It becomes a little bit flat, and whatever happened to the young contenders getting regular shots when heavyweight champions defended their belt 4 times a year? We don't get that now, do we? I think Usyk's been as active as anybody, but still,
yeah.
you know, I, I don't know. I mean, it's mega money, isn't it? He's going to carry on and he's going to have 2 or 3 more fights, I'm sure. But they're not. There won't be. There'll be bank balance securing, won't there? There won't be
For
legacy
sure.
securing.
For me, when a fighter only fights once every 6 months or 9 months or once a year, to be perfectly honest, I kind of lose interest in that fighter.
Me
I know
too.
that it's like, I don't know, if Manchester United were playing football once a season, how many people would watch Manchester United, right? Like,
That's where I am. I lose interest, as you know. So I enjoy watching, the lighter fighters who tend to
yeah,
be a little bit more active because they don't get paid as much. And I think consistency and activity is key for everybody. And they just, I don't know. I always have a bit of an issue with the heavyweights, as you know, Bob. I kind of don't have as much interest in the heavyweights outside of 2 or 3 names, I would say. And there's not that much at the heavyweight division that gets producers flowing, pretty much because they fight twice a year, and it's just find it frustrating.
yeah. I mean, I play golf with a lot of guys. All these guys like sport, right? They now, to be fair, they like North American sports. But
Yeah,
occasionally I'll talk about boxing, and they just don't know the names because they're not fighting enough. The sad thing is they all know Jake Paul, which is he's not even a boxer really. Like, I mean,
yeah,
but
Dave,
again,
whatever it is. Yeah,
they don't know these guys. Where, like, I think back to when I was a kid in the 1960s. Everybody, my mom knew who the heavyweight champion of the world
yeah,
was.
exactly the same. When I was growing up, I think I was 14 years old when Barry McGuigan fought Uzio Pedrosa at Loftus Road in 1985. And I think it was something like 21 million viewers tuned into the BBC to watch that.
Yeah,
20 million of a population at the time of about 55, 56 million.
yeah.
McGuigan was a national,
Oh, of
it was
course. Yeah,
it was a hero. It was a fantastic fighter. even like his eliminators against the likes of Juan Laporte, and then when he beat Pedroza and he had Bernard Taylor and Cabrera and those guys, it was like everybody watched McGuigan and everybody knew who he was. But even further down the chain, my mum would know who Dave Boy Green was.
Absolutely.
She
And
knew
John
who Dave Boy
Conte and
Green.
all these
Yeah.
guys, like everybody knew them, right?
And now when I talk about boxing, my mum, she was brought up around boxing because, my dad was a big boxing fan, my brother, and then I obviously got into boxing and became an amateur boxer. And my mum would watch it, she'd know all the Frank Brunos and even like the Lloyd Hunnigans and people like that
Yeah.
before the world champion, she'd know them. But now my mum, she'll ask me the question. It's not old age, Bob. She'll say, "Oh, what did you do the weekend? Go see on a Sunday or stayed up last night. There was a big fight. Who was it? Oh, Canelo Alvarez, Alexander Usyk." And she go, "Oh, I don't know them."
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was the same when my mom was alive. She knew everybody up to around, say, about 2000. And then,
Sky Sports happened and all kinds of the proliferation of
yeah, it's
channels and the networks and everything kicked in. And then these fighters, other than one or two fighters like a Tyson Fury because of his views and various other things, people don't know who these guys are outside of, sports fans who watch boxing as a secondary sport, die-hard boxing fans, and maybe a few casuals. But generally,
yeah,
if you took a poll and you picked, I don't know, the five best pound for pound fighters in the world and showed your average person in the street who are those guys,
they
they,
not
would,
gonna
they
know,
wouldn't know they were.
not gonna know at all. Um, on the subject of maybe lesser well known, but still, somebody who I think is uh, telegenic and speaks well, comes across well, could go far. I see that one of my favorite British fighters, Fabio Wardley, is going to fight Joe Parker, which is a real step up, I guess, on paper. Um, what are your thoughts about that? Like on paper, Joe Parker should be an overwhelming favorite. Um, I I like them both. I don't have a dog in the fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Joseph Parker in terms of his commitment, his dedication, and he's a typical 7 out of 10 across the board, isn't he? He doesn't do
Yeah,
anything spectacular, but he's a very consistent heavyweight. Fabio obviously lacks experience, but he's certainly explosive. He can punch, he can end a fight, and he's tough. He's teak tough. You've no issue when you see Fabio get dropped or get hurt. You know he's got that fight in him to be able to get through the tough moments. I think what I worry about with that fight is Wardley's just his lack of activity. He has a good round, two quiet rounds, another good round, two quiet rounds. And that's the one thing about Joseph Parker. He's consistently active throughout the 12 rounds. He's vulnerable. Wardley could absolutely drop him, but he does recover well from knockdowns. I think from memory, Joshua knocked Parker down.
yeah. AJ knocked him down.
AJ knocked
Zhang
him
knocked him
down.
down twice.
Exactly. Zhang knocked him down. So he can recover from a knockdown. Of course, I think Joyce just walked him down. But I think it'd be an explosive fight. It'll have its moments, but I can't see anything else other than a points win for Joseph Parker in that fight.
Yeah, I was talking to Inside the Distance this morning, and I said that's like if somebody came to me and said, "Who do you think will win?" I would say Joseph Parker on points.
That's smart
But
money.
I always want the underdog to do well, so I might put a silly bet on Fabio Wardley to, I don't think there's no chance that Fabio can win on points, but he
Exactly.
might be able to produce that, stoppage. So
The good thing, the heartwarming thing, with the fights that we're getting at the moment, obviously part of radar season, is if you lose, you're still in the mix.
yeah,
Whereas this obsession that, I think it was a legacy of Floyd Mayweather Jr., you got to be unbeaten, you got to keep the O, you got to keep the O, and everybody was chasing the O. Whereas now what we're seeing is fighters get beat, they're still in the mix.
yeah,
We've got Wilder, we've got Zhang, obviously those guys are getting old now, but we're seeing lots of fighters on these big bills, win or lose, as long as they're competitive and they're entertaining, they're still up there because the fights that people want to see. So Parker's in a very dangerous situation because if he loses, then the mandatory's gone.
yes.
Whereas if Fabio Wardley loses, as he's expected to, people just say, it's not his time yet. we can bring him back. So he's in a good situation.
No, absolutely. It's like when David Adelaide fought Filip Hrgovic. He lost against Hrgovic, but I would pay to watch David Adelaide fight again. He put up a good performance. I
Absolutely.
mean, like there's somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose, right? And honestly, I don't. If somebody loses a fight, so long as they put in a good effort, I'll watch them again.
Absolutely, and there are very, very few of the all-time greats who retired unbeaten. Of course, there is a small list, but very, very few people. And you lose, you get experience, you know what you've done wrong, and you can come back again. And
Yeah,
I think it's hard to win, but Wardley will have his moments, and I think he'll have enough moments to justify being back on another big show.
for sure. I mean, in terms of all-time greats, uh, arguably Rocky Marciano is an all-time great at heavyweight, and Floyd Mayweather is an all-time great. Outside of that, even my favorite fighter of all time, Sugar Ray Robinson, he lost.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Ricardo Lopez always gets unmentioned as well down at strawweight, but
Yeah,
that's, again, he
yeah,
was. And I've got there were fighters not considered all-time greats, maybe domestic greats like Joe Calzaghe never got beat.
yeah.
But genuinely, the loss, if you lose at a good level or you come back from that defeat, it doesn't really mean too
A
much as
loss
far as
can define you. Lennox Lewis lost, and he avenged both of his losses.
he certainly did. And if you look at even your favorite, Joe Lewis,
Yes,
he
absolutely.
got ironed out by Max Schmeling, didn't he? The
Yeah,
first
and
time around.
his victory over Schmeling is probably the defining fight of his career.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
still wince when I think about that, by the way. That was like a brutal one round KO. And I think it was when Schmeling was hurt and he turned around and Joe Lewis put those kidney shots in. It was like, oh,
Imagine the pressure that Joe Lewis was under. You know, the
absolutely.
whole Western world. You know, you carry all this responsibility, and then overlaid with the race issue and everything. Like, wow, I can't imagine. Um, Somebody who might one day, maybe might be a champion. A lot of people think he will be. Young Moses Itauma. I read the other day that he had turned down the opportunity to fight the Cuban, Frank Sanchez, who got beat by Ajit Caballel. But to be fair, I think he might have been injured. What did you make of that?
I mean, it's relatively news to me for the reason, Bob, that the topical affairs, the drama on social media, the activities, who might do this, who might do that. Generally, I don't stay close to that these days. It's just the fights that actually are happening. But I did see something pop up on, might have been Google or something, that he'd turned the fight down. You know my views on Moses. What's he had? 23, 24 rounds worth of activity in his professional career.
Yeah, he's got 13 and 0,
He's
so he's a rookie, right? Really?
he's just a baby. And would he beat Frank Sanchez? Very likely. Does he need to beat him right now? No, because you fight an eliminator, you win that, you're mandatory, and then you're up there, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I've no issue with that whatsoever. Steer the guy in the right way, at the right speed, at the right time, and then move him.
My only my only counterpoint to that is if you're running your mouth about wanting to fight Usyk and you're also having your team say we can't get anybody to fight him, Filip Hrgovic doesn't want to fight him, Jermaine Franklin doesn't want to fight him. But when Frank Sanchez says, "Hey, what about me?"
Yeah.
it kind of looks bad. You know what I mean?
I understand that, Bob, completely. And again, I'm not as close to this as yourself. I'm not very topical when it comes to boxing. I always wonder if he is running his mouth off, or his team's running his mouth off, or the comments
Yeah, to be
on
fair, yeah.
on the kind of drama channels are running the mouth off. Is that the reality of what's happening? It could be, by the way. Whenever I see Moses, I generally watch him training in camp, less the interviews and stuff. I don't do that stuff, but he seems a very confident young man, but quite humble,
Yeah.
not too outspoken. So whether he has or not, I don't know. We'll find out if he's good enough when we find out.
Yeah.
It might prove to be a costly decision by doing that. He might get knocked over in his next fight against somebody who's lesser known than Frank Sanchez. But I'm just not. I'm not big on moving fighters too quickly. That's just me personally. I'm fighting records just for the sake of it. And I would give him 2 years before he makes his move.
For sure,
On
it's really hard to go back, right? Like if
That's the problem. That
you
is the problem.
and also, I mean, he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. If he fights, say, a Frank Sanchez, and he gets beat, everybody, possibly including me, are going to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
he wasn't that good. If he beats him, well, then he's in that rarefied atmosphere where he has to fight two or three other elite guys, and he won't have the foundations in place, right?
And that's the and this might not be be aimed at you, Bob, but let's be honest, people can't wait to say that, can they?
Oh, absolutely.
There's human
Yeah,
nature waiting for successful people to fall. That is absolute human nature. Even myself, I don't do the promoter thing now. I really don't follow this stuff. I keep repeating that because I don't. It doesn't interest me. It's toxic. It's bad for you. But I had a similar kind of view with Eddie Hearn. I was loving when Dana White came in, and I was loving when Warren was re-establishing himself as a number one promoter in Britain, and I was hoping for the DAZN deal to fall because Eddie would be off his perch. And then I look back and I think, why do you care, Jules?
yeah, yeah. No,
Who promotes what and who's successful or not? And it's human nature. We're always waiting for someone to fail.
for sure. It's
Massively successful achieving people to fail. And I'm trying to. I sound like I'm preaching now, but as you know, I'm trying to turn things around in the last year, 2 years. Just be more positive about things and more kind of like have admiration for successful people. And you know what? There will be an expectation. Whereas, and I have someone in my family who does this. People can't wait for Moses to get beat,
yeah.
and then on the group saying, "I told you it was this. It was typical British fighter. They built him up, and then the first time he got hit, he's got a glass jaw." We love to do it.
Oh yeah. Well,
We
look at the way
absolutely
that
love to do it.
Anthony Joshua is treated by British fans. You
Oh,
know,
it was people were loving when Andy Ruiz knocked him out, and there was
yeah,
a moment where I got a bit excited, and then you question yourself. You say, "Why am I getting excited? Come on, this is a Anthony Joshua,
yeah.
good honest role model. What if I wanted my son to look up to a fighter, I said, look up to AJ, look up to Usyk, look up to guys like that. But we love to see people
it's the
fail.
tall.
It's human nature.
It's called the tall poppy syndrome, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of those things. It's bizarre, isn't it? Where humans are we're crazy creatures, really, aren't we? We're
we
kind of like
really are. Yeah.
cynical, envious creatures when it comes down to it. And I'm spending a lot of time at the moment looking at quotes and reading things about stoicism and all these kind of things and about positivity. Again, I'm not trying to preach. I haven't got, you know, not crystals all over my house and that kind of thing. Nothing like that. I'm just trying to be more positive generally. But we do have that thing in us, human nature, where we're like, do you know what?
Absolutely, absolutely.
There's
You
only,
should
there's
read
only
some.
one fighter I want to see ironed out, and that's Conor Ben. And I'll never change my stance on Conor because
Yeah, I actually.
for a million reasons.
He went up in my estimation after his last fight, though. To be perfectly honest, he tried his best, which is all. Yeah, I ask.
You remember we talked about this. We did a prediction, and I thought it would go the distance. I thought it would cover
Yeah,
himself. I thought he'd fight really hard. I think there was too much at stake for him not to do it. But I just still, he's the one fighter. I mean, he's my weakness.
yeah.
Conor Ben is my weakness. I want to see him get stopped, not hurt. I don't want to see him get
No, no,
hurt,
no.
but
I understand what you're
I
saying.
want to see him get stopped. But ultimately, Conor Ben was a way better and more successful boxer than I ever was, so I can't say anything really. Just look. Do you know what?
Yeah, everybody's got to
Some
have a
people
little.
just hurt you, don't they?
Everyone's got to have a little bit of bias. I get that. Um,
And Conor Ben and Eddie Hearn were my weaknesses, and I'm trying to forget that and move forward and be more positive and focus on the Bam Bam Rodriguez's and the Nicky Balls and the exciting fighters and forget all that stuff.
well, the last fight I'll ask you about, because we're running out of time, is basically a journeyman who's having an Indian summer, and that's Dave Allen against the Russian Canadian Arslanbek Makhmudov. Makhmudov, who's really got a career in Hollywood ahead of him, in my view. Do you think Dave Allen has gone a little too far, or do you think Makhmudov is like a big, mean-looking version of Johnny Fisher, and Dave Allen's got enough in the tank and enough
Yeah,
experience?
I'll give you a short, brutal explanation, and again, simply because I think Dave Allen's domestic level.
Yeah,
I thought Makhmudov was terrible. He was shown to be completely inept against Ajit Kabayel.
and
Really didn't know how
Canelo.
to. Yeah, exactly. So I just think, do you know what? Dave Allen, good luck to him. He's finally woken up. He's found the right coach. I've always been cynical of Dave Allen, not because he's Dave Allen and not because of any other reason. Not There's no hate with me when it comes to someone like Dave Allen. He's probably like a really nice guy. I don't. I've always really scorned on lazy fighters. I struggle with lazy fighters.
For
He's
sure.
got his act together. He's working hard. He's realised there's some money. He's got children now. That can change people. He's got a couple of young children. He's thinking, you know what? I'm gonna get this cash now. But the only way I'm gonna get this cash is by working hard. But let's not get carried away. Let's not get carried away. And I'll surprise you with my prediction, by the way. First of all, Dave Allen against Fraser Clark was terrible. It was
Yeah.
terrible. It's Fraser Clark. Now, Johnny Fisher can't box. He can't fight. He can't really defend. He's a big, strong lad who's come off a rugby field and is really overachieved in terms of his earnings. But Johnny Fisher can't fight. I've been consistently saying this for quite some time. And let's not get giddy about this win. Dave
Mhm.
Allen's always going to be too wily and too smart for a Johnny Fisher. He's just got too many ring smarts. In terms of Makhmudov, inept, can't defend inside. I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Allen wins that fight.
Yeah,
I haven't thought about any more than that.
I'm thinking Dave Allen's going to win. Simply too much experience, been in with too many experienced guys. As the Brits say, he's got more nous. He's got
And
more ring
you know what he
IQ.
reminds me of? And please don't attack me in the comments, okay? It reminds me of a domestic version of a Tim Witherspoon. Tim Witherspoon was a world-class elite fighter, two-time heavyweight champion, or held belts at the heavyweight division. And I remember when Witherspoon fought the big Cuban Jorge Luis Gonzalez, and he chopped him down. Witherspoon had the smarts inside to smother, to chip away, and I think Dave Allen's got at his level the similar kind of like smarts and nous to survive and fiddle through the difficult moments. And probably the other guy, I don't think he's got that survival instinct if he does get hurt. And I think Dave Allen might, without really thinking about this fight too much, just having been asked by you, I think Dave Allen might just be a little bit too wily for him.
Yeah, I think so. He reminds me of a fighter from the 60s and early 70s, Jack Bodell.
Yeah, Bodell, wow.
So there we go. Right, we're coming up to our hard stop. Right. So thank you once again for your time, Julian. I really appreciate you coming on. Folks, please like, please share, please subscribe if you can. And until next time, I'll catch you later. Cheers, man.
Thanks, Bob.
Cheers. Bye, brother.